Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. When my daughter chose my wife's lover to walk her down the aisle, I did not fight or argue. I just vanished along with the $43,000 I was spending on her wedding. What happened next made headlines in our town and turned me into a kind of folk hero. This is how I lost my family and found my freedom. My name is Reginald Cole, though most folks call me Reggie. I am 55 years old, and for the past 28 years I have been running my own septic installation business in Pine Ridge, Alabama. It is not glamorous work, but it is honest. It has kept my family comfortable. Very comfortable, actually. When you're the one who handles what nobody else wants to deal with, you can charge premium rates. Every new subdivision, every fancy house out by the lake, they all need me eventually. I built this business from nothing. I started with a beat-up truck and a second-hand backhoe I bought at an auction. Now I have 12 employees, 6 trucks, and enough equipment to handle any job in 3 counties. The irony is not lost on me that I spent my life dealing with other people's waste only to discover I had been living with it all along. The morning it all started to unravel was a Tuesday in March. I remember because I had just finished reviewing the quarterly taxes with my accountant, and the numbers were good, really good. I was sitting in my home office going over contracts for 2 new developments when I heard Yolanda's car pull into the driveway. She had been out with friends again, which had become her favorite excuse these past few years. "Reggie, honey, we need to talk," Yolanda called from the kitchen, her voice carrying that tone I had learned to dread. It was not angry or sad. It was the voice she used when she had already made up her mind about something and was just going through the motions of pretending I had a say. I found her standing by the kitchen island, still wearing the dress she bought for what she claimed was a book club meeting. Funny thing about book clubs, they do not usually require designer dresses and fresh highlights. I had stopped asking questions about her activities months ago. Sometimes ignorance really is a kind of temporary peace. "What is on your mind?" I asked, pouring myself a cup of coffee from the pot she had not offered to share. The silence between us felt heavy. She tapped her nails on the countertop, then stopped when she realized how loud it sounded in the quiet room. Yolanda fidgeted with her purse strap, avoiding my eyes. "It is about Janelle's wedding. She has made a decision about who is going to walk her down the aisle." My coffee mug stopped halfway to my lips. "Oh, she wants Maurice to do it," Yolanda said quickly, like ripping off a bandage. "She thinks it would be meaningful, since he has been such an important part of our lives lately." Maurice Benton, my former business partner, my former best friend, the man who had helped me build half of what I owned and apparently helped himself to my wife while he was at it. I set my coffee mug down real careful, the way you handle dynamite. 24 years of raising Janelle. 24 years of dance recitals, scraped knees, bedtime stories, and late-night drives to pick her up from parties when she texted me that she felt uncomfortable. All of it. And this was what it came down to. My daughter wanted my former best friend, the man who had been sleeping with her mother, to walk her down the aisle at the wedding I was paying for. "I see," I said finally, my voice steady as concrete. Yolanda's eyes flicked up, searching my face. I could tell she had rehearsed this moment, expecting raised voices or slammed doors. She must have expected yelling, maybe tears, maybe me storming out. Instead, I just nodded once and walked back to my office. "Reggie, wait," she called after me. "You can still come to the wedding if you want. Janelle really hopes you will. You will always be her father." She said it like she was doing me some kind of favor, like I was a distant relative instead of the man who had changed Janelle's diapers and taught her how to ride a bike in the cracked driveway of our first little house on the other side of Pine Ridge. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. The wedding budget spreadsheet was still up from earlier. $43,000 and counting. Venue, catering, flowers, music, photographer. Every line item paid for with money I earned crawling through mud and dealing with the worst jobs nobody else wanted. My daughter had invited my wife's lover to her wedding and asked him to take my place. I said nothing. I just removed my name from everything I funded. First, I called the venue. "Good morning. This is Reginald Cole. I need to cancel the wedding reception for Janelle Cole scheduled for June 15th. The coordinator sounded confused. "Cancel? But sir, we have everything confirmed. The deposit has been paid. We have vendors lined up. And your daughter. The deposit stays with you." I interrupted. "I am withdrawing all future payments." Please send the cancellation notice directly to the bride at her email address on file. There was a pause. Mr. Cole, is everything all right? We could possibly work out. Everything is fine on my end, I said. The contract is canceled. I ended the call before she could ask more questions. Next was the caterer. Same conversation, same result. The woman on the phone tried to convince me she could adjust the menu, reduce the guest count, maybe work out a payment plan. I told her politely that the services were no longer required and that any further arrangements would need to be handled by the bride. Then the florist, the photographer, and finally the band. Each call was surgical, professional, and stripped of emotion. I offered no explanation beyond a simple phrase. Services are no longer required under my name. I pulled up my banking app and started moving money. The wedding account I had set up emptied within 10 minutes. Everything transferred back to my business savings. The check I had written for Janelle's dress that morning, I called the bank and put a stop payment on it. By the time Yolanda knocked on my office door an hour later, I had systematically dismantled every aspect of the wedding I had been funding. "Reggie, what are you doing in there?" she asked through the door. Her knock was sharper the second time, like she was trying to knock some sense into me. "Just some bookkeeping," I replied, reviewing my handiwork. $43,000 worth of canceled contracts and stop payments. Not bad for an hour's work. "You are being childish," Yolanda said. Her voice took on that sharp edge she used when things were not going her way. "You are going to humiliate Janelle. Do you understand that? People are already asking questions." I opened the door and looked at her. Really looked at her. When had she become a stranger to me? The woman standing there was dressed to perfection, phone clutched in her manicured hand, eyes flashing more with inconvenience than remorse. "Childish will be making a scene," I said calmly. "This is just practical. If Maurice wants to play father of the bride, he can pay for the privilege." Her face went pale. "You cannot just cancel everything. People are counting on you. Janelle is counting on you. She loves you. People should have thought about that before," I said, and I closed the door again. Her knuckles hit the wood once more, then silence. What happened after that would make headlines in our entire town, but that was still coming. For the moment, all I felt was a strange, cold clarity, like a storm had finally broken and left the air sharp and clean. That evening, I sat in my workshop behind the house, staring at the old photos tacked to my bulletin board. There was one of me and Maurice from 15 years ago. Both of us were grinning like fools after landing our first big commercial contract, standing in front of a muddy field that would one day hold a row of brick homes. We had been partners then, 50-50 split on everything. Maurice handled the business side while I ran the cruise. We were going to conquer the world together, or at least 3 counties worth of septic systems. Another photo showed Janelle at 8 years old sitting on my excavator, wearing my hard hat, which was way too big for her head. She had begged me to bring her to a job site that day, tugging on my sleeve as I tried to leave for work. "Please, Daddy," she had said back then, her little voice pleading. "I want to see your big machines." I had given in. I remembered her giggles as I lifted her onto the seat. That afternoon, I taught her how to operate the controls with the engine off, her small hands guided by mine. She had been so proud. She told everyone at school her daddy could move mountains. I pulled out the bottom drawer of my file cabinet and found what I was looking for, the partnership dissolution papers from 5 years ago. That was when I bought Maurice out, paid him $200,000 for his half of the business. I had thought we were parting as friends. He had said he wanted to explore other opportunities, that he needed a change of pace. Turns out his opportunity was my wife. The papers were still in the manila envelope along with something else I had almost forgotten about, a receipt for the fishing cabin I bought in Mississippi last year. I had told Yolanda it was a business investment, potential rental property. In truth, it was my insurance policy. A man needs a place to go when everything falls apart. I heard footsteps on the gravel outside. Janelle's voice carried through the workshop door. "Dad, Mom said you were being unreasonable about the wedding." I opened the door to find my daughter standing there in her work scrubs. She was a dental hygienist at the clinic downtown. She looked tired, frustrated, and somehow younger than her 24 years, like the stress had peeled back time and left the child I used to carry on my shoulders. "Come in," I said, gesturing to the folding chair beside my workbench. The workshop smelled of oil, wood, and the faint spice of the hand cleaner I used after being out in the field. Janelle sat down and looked around the workshop at my tools, the photos, the evidence of 30 years building something from nothing. Her eyes lingered on the picture of her on the excavator. She swallowed hard. Dad, I know this is weird, Janelle said, folding her hand in her lap. But Maurice has been really good to me. When you and Mom were fighting all the time, he listened. He gave me advice about college, about men, about life. He stepped up when things were tense, about how to betray your father. I asked quietly. Her face flushed. It is not betrayal. It is just complicated. Mom loves him, and I have gotten used to having him around. He feels like family now. And what am I? I asked. She looked up quickly. You are my dad. You will always be my dad. But you have been so distant lately. So angry. Maurice makes Mom happy in a way she has not been in years. He calms her down. He understands her in ways you do not seem to anymore. I nodded slowly. And that is worth more than 24 years of me providing for this family? Worth more than the $43,000 I was spending on your wedding? Janelle's voice faltered. I did not say that. I thought you would understand. I wanted both of you there. I thought maybe if Maurice walked me, you could just be there without all the pressure. I did not think you would take it like this. I canceled everything this afternoon, I said matter-of-factly. If Maurice wants to walk you down the aisle, he can pay for the privilege. Janelle's eyes went wide. Dad, you cannot be serious. I am completely serious. You made your choice, sweetheart. Now you get to live with it. She stood up, so quickly the chair scraped against the concrete floor. You are punishing me for Mom's mistakes, Janelle said. That is not fair. I just want a peace. I thought if Maurice walked me, it would avoid drama. You did not avoid drama, I replied. You just shifted the cost. The next morning my phone started ringing at 7 o'clock. The first call was from the venue coordinator. Panic trembled in her voice. Mr. Cole, we have received your cancellation, but the bride is saying it is a mistake. She is quite upset and... There is no mistake, I said, pouring my coffee. The contract is canceled. Send all future correspondence to the bride. The second call was from Janelle, crying. I almost did not answer, but 24 years is a hard habit to break. Dad, please, she said, her voice breaking. We can work this out. Maybe Maurice, and you could both walk me down the aisle. We can figure out some kind of compromise. I will talk to Mom. I will do whatever you need me to do. Just please do not let everything fall apart. I am not sharing that honor with the man who destroyed my marriage, I replied calmly. You picked him. Stick with your choice. Third call was from Yolanda, furious. Reggie, you are embarrassing our daughter. People are going to think we are trash. Do you know what they are already saying at the salon? At the church? They think you lost your mind. People are going to think whatever they want, I said. Maybe they will think a man finally drew a line in the sand. By noon, word was spreading through town like wildfire. Pine Ridge has maybe 10,000 people, and by lunchtime it felt like half of them knew our business. The septic industry is tight-knit. Everybody knows everybody. My phone kept buzzing with texts from other contractors. Heard about the wedding situation. Good for you, Reggie. About time someone stood up to that kind of disrespect. Always respected you. But this takes serious backbone. The calls that really mattered came that afternoon. My lawyer, Harold Green, called around 3 o'clock. Reggie, I heard what happened, he said. You need to protect yourself legally. If you're planning any major financial moves, we should talk. What kind of moves? I asked, though I already had some ideas forming. Property transfers, business assets, anything Yolanda might try to claim in a divorce, Harold said. Because that is where this is headed, is it not? I thought about the fishing cabin, about the business I had built, about everything I had worked for. Yes, Harold, I said. I think it is. Come in tomorrow, he said. We will make sure you are protected. The last call of the day came from Maurice himself. His voice was tight, nervous, and just a little too smooth. Reggie, we need to talk, he said. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. Has it? I asked, leaning back in my chair. Look, I never meant for it to happen this way, Maurice said. Yolanda and I just evolved. We were friends first. We did not plan to hurt you. But there is no reason to punish Janelle for our mistakes. Mistakes? I laughed, though there was no humor in the sound. Maurice, you knew exactly what you were doing. You have been planning this for years, have you not? The partnership dissolution, moving in on my wife, turning my daughter against me. This is not a mistake. It is a hostile takeover. There was silence on the other end. I could almost hear him swallowing. If you want to pay for the wedding, be my guest, I continued. But you are not getting my money and my blessing. Pick one. I hung up and turned off my phone. Tomorrow I was going fishing. I left town at dawn the next morning, my truck loaded with gear and a cooler full of beer. The drive to Mississippi took about 4 hours, long enough to clear my head and think about what came next. The cabin sat on 12 acres of woods bordering a private lake. The kind of place where a man could disappear for weeks if he needed to. The previous owner had been a widower who built the place as a retreat after his wife died. Solid construction, solar panels, a well-stocked workshop, everything a man needed to start over. I had bought it sight unseen based on photos and a recommendation from my banker. But seeing it in person, I knew I had made the right choice. The pine trees whispered in the breeze, and the lake lay still and glassy, reflecting the sky. My phone buzzed nonstop during the drive, vibrating insistently in the cup holder. Text after text from Yolanda, from Janelle, from mutual friends trying to play peacemaker. I turned it off and tossed it in a drawer in the cabin as soon as I arrived. Whatever crisis was brewing back home could wait. The lake was perfect. Clear water, no development on the far shore, and according to the older gentleman at the bait shop on the way in, full of bass and catfish. I spent the afternoon on the dock, casting lines and not thinking about anything except the rhythm of the water and the weight of the rod in my hands. At one point, as the line cut through the water, I heard my own voice in my head, years younger, telling a tiny Janelle, "Fishing is about patience, baby girl. It is about knowing when to wait and when to pull." I wondered if she remembered that trip to the public pier when she was 9, the one where she kept squealing every time the bobber moved. That evening, I fired up the grill and cooked the 2 bass I had caught, seasoning them with herbs from the little garden the previous owner left behind. No fancy restaurant meal had ever tasted better. This was what peace felt like. Simple, quiet, and entirely my own. As the sky darkened, I finally turned my phone back on for a moment to check for any emergencies. Immediately, it buzzed with notifications. One stood out, a text from an unknown number with a photo attached. The picture showed me on the dock holding up a nice bass, grinning like I did not have a care in the world. I frowned, confused, until I read the message. It was from Daryl White, a contractor friend who had driven down to drop off some equipment at a nearby job site. "Saw you living your best life," Daryl's text read. "Mind if I share this? Folks back home are wondering where you disappeared to." "Go ahead," I texted back. "Let them see what freedom looks like." Within an hour, that photo was all over social media. Me, peaceful and happy on a dock in Mississippi, while back home, the wedding drama was probably reaching a fever pitch. The timing could not have been more perfect. 3 days of fishing, thinking, and planning gave me exactly what I needed: clarity. I drove back to Pine Ridge with a cooler full of fish and a head full of strategy. The first stop was my lawyer's office. Harold Green had news for me. "Reggie, I have been fielding calls all week," he said, motioning for me to sit. "Yolanda has hired an attorney, and they're talking about contesting the wedding cancellations, claiming you acted without proper authority." "Good luck with that," I said, settling into the chair across from his desk. Every contract was in my name, paid with my money. What authority did I need beyond that? "Exactly what I told them," Harold said with a small smile. "But there is something else. Maurice came to see me yesterday. He wanted to know about buying your septic business." I laughed out loud. "Buying it with what money?" "That is what I asked him," Harold replied. "Turns out he has been talking to investors, trying to put together a group to make an offer. He seems to think you're desperate to sell. Maybe he believes the divorce will force your hand." "I am not desperate," I said, though I let the idea hang in the air for a moment. "What kind of offer?" $2.5 million, Harold said. "Cash deal. Close in 30 days. I whistled softly. The business was worth at least $4 million, maybe more. But 2.5 would set me up for life, especially if I did not have to split it with anyone in a divorce. "Counter at $3 million, I said. "And I want a non-compete clause that covers the entire states of Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi." Harold raised an eyebrow. "You are serious about this?" "Completely serious," I said. "Let Maurice have the business. He will run it into the ground within 2 years. And I will be sitting on my dock in Mississippi watching from a distance." The drive home from Harold's office took me past the church where the wedding was supposed to happen. Cars were parked outside, and I could see people gathered on the front steps. It looked like some kind of emergency meeting. I slowed down enough to see Janelle standing next to Maurice. Both of them were gesturing wildly at a small crowd of what I assumed were wedding guests or vendors. Janelle's shoulders were tense, and even from a distance I could see Maurice's jaw clenching. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Janelle's number. I considered letting it go to voicemail, then answered. "Dad, where have you been?" Janelle asked. "Everyone has been looking for you." "Fishing," I said simply. "Caught some nice ones too." "Dad, please," she said. "We need to talk. The whole wedding is falling apart. None of the vendors will work with us because you canceled everything. They keep telling me to ask you to reinstate the contracts, and when I explain you're not paying anymore, they stop returning my calls. Mom is having panic attacks, and Maurice is trying to fix it, but he does not have the money to fix it. I finished for her. Funny how that works." "Dad, I am begging you," Janelle said. Her voice cracked. "I will do anything. I will tell Maurice not to walk me. I will ask you to walk me down the aisle. Whatever you want. Just please do not let my wedding be ruined because of this." I sat in my truck, looking at the house I bought, the lawn I maintained, the life I built, the porch I painted, the roof I repaired during that storm 3 summers back while Yolanda complained that the tarp looked ugly. "Sweetheart, your wedding is not being ruined because of this," I said. "Your wedding is being ruined because of the choices you and your mother made. I am just the consequence." "That is not fair," she whispered. "Fair?" I almost laughed. "Was it fair when you decided to replace me with a man who has been sleeping with your mother? Was it fair when neither of you bothered to consider my feelings before making this decision? You want to talk about fair? Let us start there." The silence stretched between us until she finally whispered, "I did not know it would hurt you this much." "Well, now you do," I said. "And now you know what choices cost." The Pine Ridge Chronicle ran the story on Thursday morning. Front page, above the fold. The headline read, "Local wedding canceled after father withdraws support." The subheading made me chuckle in spite of myself. Bride chooses mother's boyfriend over dad. Loses funding. I was sitting in my kitchen drinking coffee and reading every word when my phone started buzzing like an angry hornet. The reporter, a young woman named Crystal Johnson, had done her homework. She interviewed vendors, got quotes from neighbors, even tracked down some of my employees. The article painted a clear picture. Devoted father funds daughter's wedding, gets replaced by mother's affair partner, quietly withdraws support, and disappears to a lakeside cabin. The story quoted one anonymous worker from my crew saying, "Mr. Cole is the type of man who shows up at 5 in the morning and does not leave until the job is done. If he walked away, there had to be a reason." Seeing it all laid out in black and white still felt surreal. The call started immediately. First was a television station out of Birmingham wanting an interview, then a blogger from a men's rights website, then a reporter from a national newspaper who had seen the story trending online. I declined them all. A man does not need to explain his dignity to strangers. The local response was something else entirely. My phone rang constantly with support from other contractors, neighbors, even men I barely knew from the Rotary Club and the church men's breakfast. "Reggie, this is Lawrence Field from Fields Construction," one voice said. "Just wanted you to know what you did took guts. Real guts. Always respected you, Reggie," another man said. "This proves what kind of man you are. About time someone stood up to this kind of situation." The most interesting call came from Maurice himself around noon. His voice was strained, desperate. "Reggie, this newspaper thing has gotten out of hand," he said. "People are calling me everything but a gentleman. My phone has been ringing all morning with cancellations." "That is a shame," I said, not meaning it at all. "Look, we need to work something out," Maurice said. "Janelle is beside herself. Yolanda had to take time off work because people keep staring at her. This whole thing has become a circus." "Whose fault is that?" I asked. "Come on, Reggie," he said. "We are both grown men. We both made mistakes. But there is no reason to drag the children into it." "Children?" I laughed. "Maurice, Janelle is 24 years old. She made an adult choice, and now she gets to live with adult consequences. Same as you. I will pay you back for the wedding expenses," Maurice said. "Every penny. Just say the word, and I will figure it out." "With what money?" I asked. "Last I heard, you were living off unemployment and side jobs. You sold your truck last year, did you not?" The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if he had hung up. "I sold my truck," he finally admitted, "and I took out a loan against my tools. I can cover maybe half of what you spend if you give me some time. Keep your money, Maurice, I said. You are going to need it more than I will. What is that supposed to mean? He asked. I thought about the potential business sale, about the cabin in Mississippi, about the new life I was building while his old one crumbled. Nothing you need to worry about, I said. Good luck with the wedding. I hung up. That evening, I drove to Riley's Bar and Grill, the place where contractors and working men gathered after long days. I had not been there in months, but tonight felt like the right time to show my face. The moment I walked in, the place went quiet. For a heartbeat, all I heard was the hum of the ceiling fans and the clinking of glasses. Then Charles Jenkins, the owner, called out from behind the bar. Reggie Cole, Charles said, grinning. Man of the hour. The whole place erupted in applause. Grown men, tough men who had been building and fixing things their whole lives, stood up and clapped like I had just hit a home run. A few slapped me on the back as I made my way to the bar. First beer is on the house, Charles announced. For the man who finally showed folks what a backbone looks like. I spent 3 hours there talking with men I had known for decades, hearing stories about their own divorces, their own betrayals, their own moments when they had to choose between dignity and convenience. One electrician told me about the time his ex-wife moved her new boyfriend into the house while he was still paying the mortgage. A plumber described how he kept quiet for years for the children and watched his savings disappear. Every one of them said the same thing. I had done what they wished they had the courage to do. Friday morning brought a call from Harold with news about Morris's purchase offer. He is desperate, Harold said. He came in yesterday with a cashier's check for $500,000 as a down payment. He says he can get the rest within 60 days if you agree to seller financing. Seller financing? I almost choked on my coffee. He wants me to loan him the money to buy my own business. That is about the size of it, Harold said dryly. His credit is shot, and no bank will touch him for a loan this big. But he claims to have investors lined up, silent partners who believe in his vision. I thought about it while I drove to the office. Maurice, desperate to prove he could provide for Yolanda and Janelle, betting everything on a business he helped build but never truly understood. The septic industry is not just about digging holes and laying pipe. It is about relationships, reputation, and regulatory compliance. It is about knowing which inspector will nitpick a trench and which one will just glance at the plans. Those things take years to build and minutes to destroy. Counter with this, I told Harold when I called him back. $3 million cash. 30-day close. No seller financing. No contingencies. And I want a 5-year non-compete that covers Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. He will never agree to those terms, Harold said. Then he does not really want it, I replied. But Maurice did agree, which told me everything I needed to know about how desperate he had become. Whatever investors he had found, they had deep pockets and poor judgment. The signing was scheduled for the following Wednesday. I spent the weekend going through my office, boxing up personal items, and anything I wanted to take to Mississippi. 28 years of building something from nothing, and it all fit into 6 cardboard boxes. A plaque from the County Chamber of Commerce. A photo of my crew at our first big subdivision job. A coffee mug Janelle painted for me in 2nd grade that said, "World's Best Dad," in crooked letters. Monday brought another surprise. Janelle showed up at my office unannounced, looking like she had not slept in days. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "Dad, I need to ask you something," she said, closing the office door behind her. "And I need you to be honest with me." "I am always honest with you, sweetheart," I said. "Did you sell the business to punish me?" she asked. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she gotten so thin? When had those worry lines appeared around her eyes? She looked like someone who had been running from a fire and realized halfway through that she helped light it. "No," I said finally. "I sold the business because it was time, because I'm 55 years old, and I've been crawling through mud and fixing other people's problems for almost 30 years. Because I wanted to do something different with whatever time I have left." "But why to Maurice?" Janelle asked, her voice rising. "You know he does not know how to run a company like you do. You know he will mess it up. You know he is doing this to prove something." "That is not my problem anymore," I said. "If he fails, that is between him and his investors." Janelle sat down in the chair across from my desk. It was the same chair where she used to do homework while I worked late, swinging her legs and asking me math questions. She ran her fingers along the armrest like she remembered those nights too. Mom says you are moving to Mississippi, she said. That is the plan, I replied. What about me? She asked. What about our family? I leaned back in my chair, studying the woman my little girl had become. You made it clear that Maurice is your family now, I said. You chose him over me, remember? I'm just accepting your choice. I was wrong, she whispered. I see that now. The wedding is falling apart. Maurice is stressed all the time. He keeps snapping at Mom. And Mom is realizing that living with him is nothing like the fantasy she built in her head. And while all that is happening, you are out there on a lake somewhere, looking peaceful in that picture everyone keeps sharing. What do you want me to do about that? I asked. I want my dad back, she said. Tears filled her eyes. I want to fix this. I want to undo whatever I did to hurt you. I stood up and walked around the desk, then sat on the edge so I was closer to her. Janelle, some things cannot be fixed, I said. Some choices have permanent consequences. You hurt me deeper than I thought possible, and I cannot just pretend that did not happen. So this is it, she asked. You were just going to disappear and pretend you never had a daughter? I'm going to live my life on my own terms for the first time in decades, I said. If you want to be part of that life, you are welcome. But it will be in Mississippi, and it will be with the understanding that I am not the same man who used to bend over backward to make everyone else happy. She cried then, really cried. Her shoulders shook, and she covered her face with her hands. For a moment, I was tempted to pull her into my arms the way I used to when she was small and afraid of thunderstorms. But that man was gone, and we both needed to accept it. The business transfer closed on a rainy Wednesday morning in Harold Green's office. Maurice looked nervous, sweating through his one good suit, while 3 men in expensive clothes handled the paperwork. His mysterious investors turned out to be a group from Atlanta who specialized in buying distressed businesses. They had that predatory look of vultures circling wounded prey. Congratulations, I said to Maurice as we shook hands after signing the final documents. I hope it works out for you. His grip was weak and clammy. Thanks, Reggie, he said. I will take good care of the business. I'm sure you will, I replied. I walked out of that office $3 million richer. The septic business that had defined my adult life now belonged to someone else. For the first time since I was 25, I had no employees to manage, no schedules to maintain, no broken pumps to fix in the middle of the night. The feeling was intoxicating. That afternoon, I loaded my truck with the last boxes from my office and drove straight to Mississippi. The cabin felt different now. Not like a retreat, but like home. I spent the evening on the dock fishing and planning. $3 million in the bank, no debt, no obligations. A man could live very well on the interest alone. My phone rang around sunset. Janelle, I answered. Dad, the wedding is officially off, she said. Her voice sounded flat, exhausted. Maurice cannot afford to replace what you canceled, and Mom is having some kind of breakdown. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. I meant it more than I expected. I never wanted Janelle to be hurt. I just wanted her to understand that choices have consequences. Elliot's family is furious, Janelle continued. They flew in from Oregon, paid for hotels, took time off work. His mother called me yesterday, screaming about how embarrassing this whole situation is. What does Elliot think? I asked. He's relieved, actually, she said after a pause. He told me he's been having second thoughts for a while. He said getting married at 26 to someone whose family is in complete chaos was not his dream scenario. I almost smiled. Sounds like he is paying attention, I said. We decided to break up, Janelle added quietly. He said he cares about me, but he needs stability. I cannot even argue with him. I do not know what I want right now except for everything to stop spinning. So what happens now? I asked. I do not know, she said. Maurice moved out yesterday after Mom found out about some property he had been hiding from her. Apparently, he owes the Internal Revenue Service a bunch of money, and there is some kind of investigation into his old projects. Harold had mentioned rumors of that a while back. He had been busy behind the scenes. Good for him. And your mother? I asked. She is talking about selling the house, Janelle said. Maybe moving to Florida to live with Aunt Denise. She says there is nothing left for her here. She says everyone is judging her. And you? I asked. There was a long pause. I was hoping maybe I could come visit you sometime in Mississippi, Janelle said. If that is okay. I looked out over the lake, watching the sunset paint the water gold and red. "You're always welcome, Janelle," I said. "But understand, things are different now. I am different now." "I know," she said. "I'm hoping maybe I can be different too." We talked for another hour. Really talked for the first time in years. She told me about her job, her dreams, her regrets. She admitted she had felt caught between loyalty to her mother and love for me. And instead of standing up for what she knew was right, she chose the path that made the least waves. I told her about the cabin, about the peace I had found, about the life I was building without bitterness or anger. When we finally hung up, I felt something I had not experienced in months. Hope. 6 months later, I was sitting on my dock reading the morning paper when my neighbor from back in Alabama, Leon Turner, called. "Reggie, thought you'd want to know," Leon said. "Morris's business went under. Closed the doors yesterday." "That was fast," I said. "Faster than anyone expected," Leon replied. "Turns out those investors were more like loan sharks. When he could not make the payments, they foreclosed on everything. Equipment is being auctioned off next week. They even came for his personal truck." I felt a moment of satisfaction, followed quickly by something that might have been pity. Maurice had gotten exactly what he asked for, my business, and he had promptly destroyed it through inexperience and greed. "What is he doing now?" I asked. "Word is he is driving long-haul truck for a company out of Jackson," Leon said. "Gone most of the time, sleeping in those little cabs, chasing miles." "And Yolanda?" I asked. "She moved to Florida 3 months ago," Leon said. "Sold the house to some family from Birmingham. Never did see her again after the moving truck pulled away. She slipped out like a shadow." After Leon hung up, I sat in the morning quiet, thinking about the life I had left behind. A year ago, I had been a married man with a thriving business and a daughter who loved me. Now I was alone on a lake in Mississippi, and somehow that felt like the better deal. My phone buzzed with a text from Janelle. She had been visiting every few weeks, helping me fix up the cabin, learning to fish, rebuilding our relationship one conversation at a time. She had painted the small guest room herself, choosing a warm yellow color, and laughing when she accidentally left a handprint on the wall that we decided to keep. Her message read, "Coming down Friday for the weekend. Bringing someone I want you to meet." I texted back, "Someone special?" "Very special," she replied. "His name is Jerome. He is a teacher, and he treats me the way you always treated Mom before everything went wrong." I smiled, genuinely happy for her. Janelle had learned something valuable from watching our family fall apart: how to recognize a good man when she found one. That evening, I called Harold to discuss setting up a trust fund for any future grandchildren. $3 million properly invested could provide for a lot of college educations and wedding funds. This time, though, I would make sure the money came with clearly written conditions about respect and loyalty, and about understanding that love is a choice you back up with actions. As I watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple, the lake reflecting every color, I listened to the soft splash of fish near the surface and the distant call of a bird in the trees. The air smelled like water and pine and grilled fish from the dinner I had just finished. The bass were biting. The beer in my cooler was cold. Somewhere down the highway, my daughter was packing a bag to come see me, and a man who respected her was planning to shake my hand. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. For the first time in decades, that was enough. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.